Okay, welcome to this week's edition of the Sport Fighting League Report. I'm Jim Jenkins. I'm joined by Jay D'Amato and Andy Clareman.
I'm Jay.
How you doing, Jim?
That would make you Andy.
That would make me Andy.
We're going to talk a little bit today about the Right Fight 3 from Sport Fighting League that just happened a couple weeks ago. We were off last week. I was sick and a couple other people were ill, so we skipped last week, as sometimes happens. But we're going to be talking a little bit about those fights and break down the pro-ams that happened. We're also going to be visiting in studio with the number one ranked 115-pound female fighter in the world as an amateur, and that's Ashley Smashley Cummings. And she'll be joining us here in the studio, and she's going to be talking a little bit about what she's got in the future lined up. And we're also going to be, I think, talking UFC tonight. They've got, is it 1:30?
UFC 1:30 coming up Saturday, May 28th.
We're getting a preview on that. I know Jay's ready. He's got a whole bunch of information and a lot of opinions. He's ready to go.
Yeah, we'll make some predictions tonight on that.
There you go. And we're also going to be doing a new segment that I wanted to do, so I'll take the blame, and it's called A-Hole of the Week, and you'll see that at the end of the show tonight. And also, we're going to be introducing another person who's going to be joining the studio here with us as a regular host. So we'll be talking to Oscar Lores later on in the evening. So let's talk a little bit about Right Fight 3. You guys got to see the fights. I was busy working. I watched the tape again yesterday because I get to see it live in bits and pieces.
But you also put it together. You were the promoter, you were
Matchmaker.
matchmaker.
Involved with it with a couple people matchmaking and promoting, and we all, everybody wears a bunch of hats, but Scott Wright and Wright Companies was the promoter, and I was the matchmaker along, and then Rico Engberg also helped too with that, so it's a group effort. And I do want to say special shout out to, I had it written down and I apologize, to our brothers out in Joplin and sisters, our friends out there. Man, what a devastating thing. Our friends, Team Payne, Rico Engberg, Fred Engberg, live out there, and I know they're looking.
They're okay. They're not hurt. But what about their facilities?
Well, I think their gym is completely gone. So we're going to look to see what we can do to help them once we know what we can do. But they're also trying to locate still all their friends and family and team members from their gym. And just make sure everybody's.
He had an event coming up, didn't he?
I believe
that's been canceled.
Yeah, they had a lot going on. So we do want to do a shout out to them, and there is a thing here on iWatch that you can get involved in, and that's the Tornado Disaster Fund. You can check with iWatch on the homepage and learn a little bit more, and we'll be talking about what we can do for those people. As it's going to take a while though before they know what to do. So anyway, Right Fight 3, we had 6 amateur and 4 pro fights.
Another great night of fights.
Did you guys have a good time? Enjoyed it? I thought it went pretty good.
Yeah, very nice. Another good night.
Now, I have to admit, I was a little bit late, so I missed the first 2 matches. What happened between Taylor Nash and Tim Ramsey that started out the night.
They were two new guys, and Jay, do you remember that fight, the first one of the night?
No, I missed that one too.
Okay. They were both first timers, and it was a good opening round. Taylor Nash was able to get him down on the ground, though, and win by ground and pound. He just kind of tired Tim out. Tim was good for a bit, and then, after a little bit of time, he didn't have his escape down, and he flattened him out on his back and pounded on him. But it was a good fight up until then. I think both of them will learn from it. Neither one of them looked terrible by any means. It was a good competitive match until
Now,
that
which
point.
camp was Taylor out of?
Taylor Nash is with Adam Wright, and I'm trying to think. It skips me the name of their gym over in Illinois. I apologize. And Tim Ramsey's with B3 Alpha Dogs out in Carlisle Lake.
Okay.
So yeah, Carlisle, Illinois. There were a lot of guys from there that time.
How about match number 2? John Wynn.
John
versus
Wynn.
Tim Bierman.
Yes, we've seen John win a lot. He's
Right.
from Brian Baker's group, Field Warriors, and he's an outstanding kid. He hasn't lost yet. He's a
What's his
growing.
record now?
I want to say 4-0 or 5-0 maybe after this one.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, they did have a no contest, but it depends on who he hasn't lost yet. Good, strong kid. He's learning. He's making leaps and bounds. He looked a lot better this time. He learned in his previous fight that he needs to be serious in his conditioning because he won, but it was a lot harder than it needed to be. He came back this time looking lean, looking ready to fight, and ended
He's a
up
big, strong 195 pound. At 195,
Yep.
he carries it well.
And he cuts down. He didn't have to cut a whole bunch then. And a tall kid too. He's probably 6'2", and a good guy. Just a real nice. That whole camp, Brian Baker's group, Field
They're a very
Warriors.
nice group and well trained, and they all worked. Well, John is normally a 185 pounder. He's
Yeah,
gonna be?
185, and it was Bierman that was worried about making it down.
Right. So, he did. This was a catch weight they did at 195.
Right, and it was a good competitive first round, and I think John really rocked Bierman.
Oh yeah.
And when he kind of got him turned, and then he just never really recovered. John was on him, and that was it. He got the KO. But it was a good fight, and I don't know where we're going to go with John now. It's kind of tough. I talked to his camp about where do you go with the guy, and
But
that's
that was
a tough
rough
one.
stop. That was a rough stoppage.
Yeah.
That should have been. That was a good stop, and it was a good fight.
And that's kind of a dilemma, Jay, we might talk about later, but where do you go with some of these guys when they've had 4 or 5 fights, but they're still pretty green? They've
Right.
kind of beat the other green guys. They're not really ready to jump into the fire. You don't want to ruin a kid. You want him to grow. So they get frustrated. And he might be at that point where he's just going to have to put some more tools together before he makes that next leap. But we'll see. John's a
But he
tough
could
kid.
fight 10 more guys if he can find it. I mean, it'd be nice if
Right.
if nobody gets hurt and they can keep fighting, they can fight more often. They're going to be that much better off. I think the problem is they fight every 3-4 months, and that's not enough.
Or the opposite. They fight every 2 weeks. And
Right.
then
And
too
that's
much.
too much.
And that's too much.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, Nathan Downs was an independent this time, but I believe he's joining Full Contact Fitness. He fought Clay Mitchell out of B3 Alpha Dogs, and Nathan comes with a college wrestling pedigree, and it showed.
Right.
In the beginning, Clay clobbered him,
Yes.
and I thought he had him knocked out because he knocked his mouthpiece way far and knocked him down.
It
And,
was right at the beginning. It started and
and Clay's green. He was 2-0 going into that, and he was still kind of looping his punches a little bit.
Yeah.
You could see if he was able to just loosen up and throw good, he might have been able to stop him early.
but he's more of a grappler himself than the other. He
Right.
just met another grappler that was a very good,
He
a
met
good
a
wrestler. He met a
exactly.
wrestler.
and he
A good wrestler.
a good wrestler who gassed him. I
Right.
mean, after
Yeah.
the first round, Clay was gassed.
He was gassed.
Well,
He
he
was
was
impressive
He
at the-
frustrated everything he was doing, and it was a surprise. I really thought Clay would be able to deal with that.
Yeah, but where he showed a toughness though in making it through all 3
yeah.
rounds to the decision
That's
because
what I was just about to say. I
he
mean,
really took some smacks and at the end he
I
was
really
still
thought
there.
he was done after the first round, and for him to continue for 2 more rounds and pretty much from the bottom, but
Yeah.
never say quit. So
So that was a
impressive.
judge's decision.
Judge's decision
And it was a unanimous
unanimous
decision.
decision. Yeah, we look for him to come back. Now the next one trains with your Jim Jay.
Kenny Niehaus.
Yep, Kenny was coming back, I think, off an injury and fought a tough Aaron Clark. And you want to talk about how that one went? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, Kenny did really well.
That was a great
Kenny's
fight.
been
Well,
fighting.
they run
some
together
great-
on me. When I ask you if you remember, it doesn't mean
Right.
I don't remember. They all run together.
That's also the type of fight that the crowd just really gets into. I mean,
Right.
they were going after each other. Let's see.
Well, Kenny fights a very smart fight.
He
And
did.
the crowd likes it because he mixes it up. And when he stands, he goes toe to toe. He'll really fight the guy. He'll give it a stand up. He doesn't go to the ground easily, so you have to work hard for that. If you go to the ground, he's going to give you a good ground fight.
Yep.
But he makes you pay the whole time. He's
Yeah,
a
he
counter
made Aaron
puncher.
Clark pay the whole time.
Aaron
Aaron
paid
Clark
big
came
time.
after him with some pretty good stuff. Threw that flying
Aaron-
back fist.
Yeah, Aaron said afterwards he wants to train with him. He goes, "That's a good idea."
Never a
But
bad
that was
move.
the best I think Kenny has looked yet. I mean, he's looked good in a lot of his fights, and he fights his fight. But
Kenny
that-
fights his
he
own
owned
fight
that
very
fight
well.
throughout.
Well, Kenny's our regional champion. It's kind of interesting because we're going to be pulling in.
Yeah, who's he got coming up?
Yeah, we're going to be pulling. We had a league champion and a regional champion at each weight, and we're kind of getting rid of the regional champion, and we're just going to have one champion for each weight. And I think that's kind of the way to go. So
Makes sense.
what's going to happen on June 17th, and we'll probably have them both in the studio either next Tuesday or the week after, is Charlie Hoare from St. Charles MMA, Team Voggy, and Kenny Nienhaus. Charlie is the league champ. Kenny is the regional champ. So they're going to fight, and one's going to walk away as the champ. and the
No,
other
they fought
one-
before.
They did fight before, and that was a great fight.
And
Yes, it was.
Charlie won that first fight.
Charlie caught him in a triangle, and I think it was a triangle, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
the
was about-
longest.
Jay
it was the
remembers.
I've
longest
never seen
triangle.
anybody stand it so long.
Yeah.
He was in that triangle for a long,
That's what
long
I said to Kenny
time.
afterwards. It's good to know you don't need oxygen. So.
Well, Kenny said he don't remember the next round.
Oh no,
Well,
he
you know
didn't
what?
remember
He
the
remember-
rest
he
of
says-
the fight.
yeah.
yeah.
And two guys
And that
that
was
really.
his best round too. The next one, and he
Yeah.
has no idea what the hell he did. That's what's interesting.
That's
Well, what I like-
deprivation for sure.
I'm sorry. What I like is they're both growing guys. I
Yes.
mean, we've watched Charlie grow too. He went
Yeah.
after that and beat Dionetta after Kenny, and then I think maybe even another one. But Charlie's on a roll of several fights in a row. He's made really, leaps
Charlie's
and
a
bounds.
tough fighter, no doubt.
Right.
He's got very good jiu-jitsu, and his stand-up's not bad either.
and having
I'm
all
looking
those-
forward to that fight. That's a fight worth coming to see.
That's one of
gonna
the
be nice.
kids that the good training partners and steady training at a good gym rubbed off on for
Right.
sure. Because Charlie's is really looking good too. That's going to be an exciting fight, and that's actually the headline fight for June 17th, the amateur
Right.
show. So I'm excited about that. But Kenny
Kenny
did come
won
back
that
and
fight
won
that
and
night.
did a great job. The next one was for the vacant league belt, and that's Brandon Knight out of Brian Bakersfield Warriors and Eric Vasquez out of trains with Johan said.
Right.
Fairview
This is
Heights
the second
Boxing
time
Gym.
these guys met. Eric
Yes.
won the first time, but not this time.
Correct. And you remember how it went down?
Oh yeah, Brandon came out like a firecracker, and Eric was on the receiving end from the get-go. It was kind of funny because right at the end of the first round, Eric kind of came back and flipped him over, and as he did that, he fell into a triangle or a guillotine choke, I do believe, and was choked out.
Yeah. It was late in the first round, I think. And Eric's a tough kid. I've watched the tape again, so it's easier for me to see. I saw a couple things that we'll talk about. But Eric's a good tough guy. And congratulations to Brandon Knight. He won that belt.
Great fight.
And Brandon, and we'll do a side note here too. Brandon and our regional champ, who's undefeated fighter out of Full Contact, Jake Duff, are going to go ahead and meet on the amateur portion of the big eight pro fight event we're doing in July. There'll be 8 pro
Well, why
bouts
don't we
and
take a
4
minute? Let's
amateurs.
make sure we get it understood here. You got your next event is when,
My next event is June the 17th,
and that's an amateur or pro?
Friday night at the Heart of St. Charles.
All amateur.
That's
all
an all amateur card, and who's fighting on that card? Who's your headline?
I've got several people there. That I figure we kind of get to it.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
That's okay.
we'll break down that.
But you
card
have
a
one
little bit.
June 17th, and then the next one.
June 16th or 17th?
June 17th, excuse me. And then there'll be a big pro am card, which is going to be 8 pro bouts and 4 amateurs at the St. Charles Convention Center, Saturday, July the 16th.
Okay.
If you're looking for something in between, there's a fights out in Eureka. Jim Smothers has on the 4th. They're going to bring a couple guests in next week and talk about those fights too. So there's
Great.
some fights out in Eureka also, and that'll be some kickboxing and MMA going on.
No
So-
shortage of fights in the
No.
St. Louis area.
Not at all.
But your next one's going to be at the Heart of St. Charles. The following one on July 16th will be